Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome into Guest Blade episode number 31. And I want to start things off by giving a big thanks to Michael Stewart, who sent me actually a pair of knives. This was actually the bonus. I'm going to be doing a Guest Blade, the next Guest Blade, on a Jeff Vandermeulen double homicide. And that was the one we had talked about, and he was sending it out. And as he was boxing it, he goes, "Hey, I just got this really cool new knife from Randy Doucette. Do you want to take a look at it?" I'm like, "Well, shit, yeah, I want to take a look at it." I've wanted to get my hands on one of his knives for quite a long time, having only seen pictures of them. And I said, if I've had a hard time coming across one, that means most people probably have. And that's the point of Guest Blade, is to bring out cool stuff that you and I don't get a regular chance to see and may never get a chance to experience. So today we're going to be taking a look at a really slick, really cool knife from a very, very talented knife maker that I know a lot of you already know who he is, but I still think there are plenty of people that don't. And you're really only going to find random pictures here and there. You're not usually going to find a lot of his knives in stock. So it's not, it's not as common as, say, even seeing a Kirby Lambert, and Kirby Lamberts aren't really, everywhere out there, but I think they're more commonly found. And he shares a lot of the same, things with guys like Kirby Lambert and Greg Lightfoot, Brian Tye. They all live in Canada, and they're all doing really incredible quality in wonderfully artistic styles. This particular version is called the Outlaw, and this is an exclusive to SteelAddictionKnives.com. So if you shop at Steel Addiction, you've seen Randy's work, you've seen this new model that is being made exclusively for them. This particular variation is a little bit rarer because you see there's quite a bit of belly in this blade. So when I spoke with Randy, he kind of just called it a slight recurve, but it's got a lot of belly to it. I had a wonderful opportunity earlier today to speak with Randy on the phone. I guess we talked for a half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. And he was wonderfully gracious with his time and information. And he surprised me with a few things, and I hope that it's going to surprise you just as much as it surprised me. Now, before we get into the surprises, let's talk about the knife in general. This is a double bolstered model. He makes a lot of his knives with just a single bolster, traditional bolstered knife. And then he also does a double bolster model. Double bolsters are typically going to be a little bit rarer with him than a standard bolster. So all the Outlaws I've seen so far have been double bolstered, so that may be something that's somewhat standard for this particular model. This particular variation is done in a really nice, clean blasted titanium. And I've seen him do Moku Thai, I've seen him do all kinds of Timascus, and some other really cool materials. So he's really up for pretty much anything. And that was one of the things I discussed with him. I said, what are your favorite materials to work with? He's like, man, I kind of like working with everything. I love carbon fiber, I love working with bone, I love natural materials the most. But he also likes working with Timascus and lightning strike carbon fiber, which I thought was weird because I've never once, out of any conversation I've had with a maker, I've never had one say that they actually liked working with lightning strike carbon fiber. And he's like, you know what, if you work it right and you do what I do, and he polishes his lightning strike carbon fiber, he says if you do it right, you don't have any of those burrs to contend with and the things that people can find annoying with lightning strike. Now let's get into the surprises on this. When I saw these in pictures, and even when I first got this knife in my hands, I assumed this was wood, but it's not. It's a form of micarta. It's some sort of linen micarta. I believe it was originally a dark green. It comes off a little bit brown to me when I talked to Michael, the owner of this knife. I think he said he applied some sort of oil to it to bring out this really rich color. I mean, you look at it from anything more than 6 inches away, and obviously not under an HD lens, it really just looks like wood handles. And I like the fact that it's micarta. Now let's take a really good look at the precision in which this is made. I mean, you look at all of the chamfering around the edges of the titanium. You see the notch here, the finger relief. You'll notice how he goes from a narrow chamfer to a larger chamfer, back down, keeps the same here, and then he goes from this wide chamfer, and then it gets narrower to the point, and it does it here on this side as well. This is extremely high precision. You look at the very acute angles that are here on the titanium, matched through obviously with the micarta. The precision even in the clip, which you guys know I'm big on clips. If you're going to spend more than a few $100s on a knife, it damn well better have a nice custom clip, and this certainly does. Very large clip as well. And again, you see the precision all through here. You notice how everything is exacting and precise. Here's the surprising part. He does not own a CNC, and he does not use a water jet. Everything that you see here was done by hand. He's using grinders and sanders and mill. That's it. He's not using any smart technology to make this knife. And now take a look at it again, now that you've heard that, and revel in the complexity in which he's done all of this work, in the sharp precision in which he's done all of this work. Knowing that this was all done by hand. On a handmade product, you're always going to see slight inconsistencies, little variances throughout the knife, and especially knife to knife. And this one is just so expertly done. He was telling me that some of the most laborious processes on this knife were these relief cuts here in the bolsters, and then here again, which you may not have even noticed at the beginning. Let's kind of bring that back into focus. All the reliefs here, these finger cutouts. And to know that was all done by hand just completely blows my mind. Just blows my mind. He also does his own stock removal. So he's not relying on a water jet cutting out a blank for his blades. So the entire stock removal is done by him, by hand. Another surprising thing, because if you look, you Google image search Randy Doucette knives, and that is, by the way, the proper pronunciation of his name. It's not Doucette, it's Doucette. And you look at all of the different blades that he's done and the grinds that he's done. I was very surprised to find out he freehands everything. He says he doesn't even take on his blank and draw out his grind lines. Everything is done freehand, no jigs. How amazing is that? And they're beautiful grinds as well. And I can't imagine it would look any less beautiful when I go to view this later in HD. You know, because you get one look with your own eyes, and it's always funny. I'll look at something that I've recorded and look at it in HD and go, "Oh, I didn't see that little thing there. I didn't see that there," or the, you know, negative areas and some carbon fiber scales or something. And I gotta think that this is going to present very, very well in full HD. Now, another surprising thing about this is a 4-inch blade. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to lay this down next to two other knives that I own that are 4-inch blades. And one of the fun facts here is Alan Elishewitz, who made this Omega M5, he's one of those guys that really uses as much of the handle as he can to fold the blade into. So you're not going to see a huge difference between those two. And then I bring out my Olamic Wayfarer. And we put these all side by side, butt to butt, of course, as everything in the world should be, butt to butt. And you'll see the Olamic is considerably larger, quite a bit longer. So now let's get these guys opened up. Love the action on that, by the way. Now let's take them. Ooh, boy, that's a spiky little tip right there. That is the exact same blade length as these two. It's a crazy optical illusion. What he's done here is nothing short of remarkable all the way around. And I brought this out to compare as well because Alan is another guy that does everything by hand. And while this particular knife shows an incredible degree of precision and consistency, I have on some of Alan's knives that you can tell are handmade. They have little teeny tiny inconsistencies here and there that, and I like that. It shows that it's a handmade product. If I had not talked to Randy today, I would have had to have made the natural assumption that he was using EDM or water jet or CNC, something. I would never have assumed that this could have been done by hand. It's an incredible knife. He is using IKBS. This is a custom pivot of his own manufacture. He likes to turn his own pivots. It's a really nice looking pivot. Nice clean hardware all the way around. And a lot of hardware, and I think it serves this knife well. If this was made in a different style or by someone else, I would have rather have seen a bolster with a hidden pivot where everything was smooth and there was no hardware showing. But this kind of futuristic, this modern futuristic look that it has a very machine-y kind of look. So I actually like seeing the screws on here. I'm not a big fan of micarta. I like black linen micarta. That's about it. I'm not big on earth tones, so for me this wouldn't have worked out so well, but I think it does suit the knife very well. It looks great. The ergonomics are interesting. This is a fighter style knife, so it will hook you in here and it will hook you in back here. Now for my hand, I wore a size large glove. It's only a teeny tiny bit cramped, and obviously one person cannot make a knife that will fit everybody's hand. There are plenty of men out there that have much larger hands than I do, and plenty that have much smaller hands. So you really have to, kind of make it work for as many people as possible. I'd be perfectly happy with this. I think it looks great. It feels great. It's only a teeny tiny little bit cramped, yet my fingers do fall right where he wants them to in those relief cuts, so he knew what he was doing. The action is snappy, but you can't just flip it like any other flipper. You can't just rock back on it and get it to go super fast. It certainly does work just fine, but if you're looking for a rocket, that R.J. Martin Q36 or Shirogorov kind of rocket, you want to preload it and push button it. And when you do that, she comes flying out, even vertical. Oops, sorry about that. Comes out nice and quick. Very smooth, as you see right there. Blade retracts fully just by a little knock. Here's your lockup. Nice clean lockup, clean geometry on there. Certainly nothing to complain about on that. It's just, in my opinion, it is a fantastic looking knife all the way around. So to realize he's done everything completely made by hand, you would think this is going to be a tremendously expensive knife. Now think about it, guys, before you go jumping off. Think about much simpler knives. Just a standard slab of titanium with a bearing pivot flipper. A lot of makers are doing that 800, 900, 1,000, 1,200 as their direct pricing. This is not CNC'd, it's not water jet, it's not EDM. This is made by hand, and he's putting this model out for $900. It was either $9 or $950. I apologize if I'm off by $50, but I know it was $9 or $950. You get into something a little bit fancier, maybe with more expensive materials, it's going to go up around $1,000. Guys, that's insane. And it once again puts in perspective the thing that I've been saying for so long, that a lot of these secondary market prices are getting way out of control. And even in some cases, the primary prices from the makers. Look at that. This is just gorgeous. And I am not a Bowie style fan, but this is really, really, really cool. Now, let's talk about availability. Here's the rub. Randy does not have books. He doesn't accept direct orders. He deals with Steel Addiction knives, and he deals with GP knives. And I love both of those guys. I've dealt with both companies. I think they're fantastic. He made a great choice with where he decided to sell his wares. But it's going to be, Whatever's available, somebody grabs it up, then it's gone. That's it. He does say that if somebody were to contact him and say, hey, I'm looking for so-and-so, if he happens to have one coming up soon that he's going to be making, then, he'll go ahead and say, okay, well, I'm going to be making one of those next week. I'm going to use these materials. If that works for you, then I'll go ahead and sell that to you. What he doesn't want to do is get somebody on the phone, and he would rather deal with somebody on the phone. That way he gets a feel for the customer, and I think that's great. He doesn't want to get somebody on the phone for an hour, hemming and hawing, going, well, I was thinking of marbled carbon fiber, and then we could mill some lines in here, and then inlay strips of mother of pearl, and then we'll put a tuna can opener for the pocket clip. He wants to make them how he sees them, how he envisions them, and make that available. If that's what's going to work out for somebody, fantastic. If not, then he's already got a customer for it. So I wouldn't say that it's a terrible idea to reach out to him. He does have an email contact via his website, and then maybe he'll call. I would say put your phone number in there for certain. He would rather deal with you on the phone than through email. He's a more personable kind of guy. I wouldn't say that's a bad idea. I'm just not going to promise you that you're going to get anything made. So, you take that for whatever it's worth. I found him to be a super laid-back guy. It was almost like talking to a Canadian Tommy Chong. I mean, seriously, like he was just very mellow, very relaxed, and very, very humble. Because I'm sitting there, I'm kind of guffawing a little bit, and I try not to do that when I speak to any maker, but, this was the very first time I've held one of his knives in my hand. And when he started telling me that this is all done by hand, I was like, no shit. Well, then it's even nicer than I thought it was. This is a fantastic value, in my opinion. Like I told him, I am dying to get my hands on a serpent, and he does this really cool double hollow grind. It's on both sides of the blade. So basically, it's a quad hollow grind, if you really want to look at it that way. It is the most aggressive, crazy thing you've ever seen since Mick Strider's Nightmare Grind. It looks dangerous. It looks like it's going to hurt you just sitting there, and that excites me. Now, you guys know how I am. No matter how much I love a knife or like a particular maker, when things jump out at me, I do have to mention it. I do have to talk about it. As far as their ergos, I like how it feels. It is a flat, blocky knife. So as long as you're expecting that, then that's fine. It doesn't have any palm swells or anything. And I like it this way. I think it's a really, really nice feel in the hand. You can see right here that he freehands his grinds, because you'll notice it's just a little bit uneven. Now that's not a nitpick. That's not something that bothers me in the slightest, because again, I like to have a little indication on my handmade knives that it really truly is a handmade knife. If this was set up on a jig, he probably wouldn't have had that issue whatsoever. And again, it's not an issue. I shouldn't have said like that. But there is that one little inconsistency that reminds me that what I'm holding in my hand is a handmade product. When I first held it, I was not a fan of this little tab right up here. Now, I understand being a fighter-style knife, it's probably being used as a hilt, just like the trigger for the flipper, so that your hand doesn't slide up and go sliding up the blade if you stab into a hard and movable object. But what I soon came to like was that I could use that to close the blade very easily, because you're not really going to want to do this a lot, because if your thumb's in the way and that blade drops, obviously the flipper tab is going to stop that, but there are times we're not paying a lot of attention and we do this and put our thumb back and boom. So I kind of like this, that I can just break it past the detent and push it straight down. So I actually found that to be somewhat of an assistance. The one and only thing that I have as a gripe about this, remember we were talking about how he utilizes every bit of this handle length to fit the blade into, and that's what keeps it feeling and looking so compact for such a big knife. There's the issue right there. I'm running the risk of cutting my finger open, but that right there, you can very easily feel the tip of the blade. So, and I don't believe that's going to be representative of his steady work, his consistent work, but it certainly is there. And just by design, the way that this is cut back at such a severe angle, if at some point, because there are a lot of times that we're handling our knives and we're not just opening and closing them regularly. We're sitting on the phone with one of our knife buddies and we're playing and flipping with our knives or whatever. And there could be a time where you're going to be closing it like this. Maybe you're going, oh, I want to feel the detent. I want to see what the detent is like. And if you have your hand in the wrong spot like this, so this cutaway for the length of this blade is a little bit tough. The knife that I just designed, and I'm doing the collaboration with Frank Fisher, I have an angled ass end on mine as well, and I've got a harpoon tip blade. But what we did was we're making the handle just a little bit larger so that's not going to be a concern. So I think if there was one and only, there was one and only one nitpick, that would be it. And that's not something that's major, but it is something that if I didn't call it out and somebody saw it in the video, they go, oh, Jim didn't call it out because he likes Randy and thinks he's a cool dude. And I do. I think he's a really cool guy, and I very much want to have one of his knives. But yeah, that does need to be called out. But that's it. Everything else about this knife is just fantastic. I love opening this thing. I love playing with it. This is something I would love to have in my collection. So if you've ever wondered about Randy Doucette knives, I hope I've given you enough of a background here and enough of a look, and we'll bring it up close again for some more close-up HD look. I hope this answered some of the questions that you may have had and helped to establish the value that's really in this knife, considering it being a handmade product. You would look at it and just naturally assume, well, that's got to be water jet, that's got to be CNC. And you, like me, would have been wrong. Just gorgeous. Nice satin on there. Nice belt finish on the primary bevel and on the top swedge. Very exaggerated top swedge as well. So there you go, guys. I'm out of here for now. The next time you see me, I'm going to be out here with one of the biggest, scariest, most monstrous knives you're ever going to get your hands on. And I can't wait to show it to you. All right, guys, I'll see you then.